What's up, people? In Wolf Den, episode 5. I don't know what I've done this week, but I've been dealing with 2 Georges this week. I had one yesterday, and now I've got one today. Both of them class dudes. Sir, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? My name's Jordan. I'm an MMA writer, and I do some podcasts and some interviews. I've got a channel called Cage Scribe, and yeah, just jump along to hopefully answer some questions and get to know each other a bit better.
Right. And how did you get into MMA, George? Tell me, like, in your own words, what was the first thing that drawed you to MMA when you first started watching it or seeing it? What was the first thing that caught your eye about it?
So I had a bit of a weird relationship with where I was sort of, for the ages about 12 and 13, I'd done Muay Thai, which was the first sort of fighting sport that I'd got involved with. But at that point, I hadn't really seen much MMA. UFC was something over here that sort of really only appeared on TV or any kind of thing like that once in a blue moon, very late at night. It wasn't advertised. So I think I'd seen a few fights here and there, and I think I'd maybe played the games before I actually got into it. But it was Pride with guys like Mirko Krokop and Vanderlei Silva. And then there was a fighter called Joe Lozon.
Yeah, I remember Joe Lozon. I remember a long time ago.
It was his fight against Jim Miller at UFC 155, where basically he'd just been cut to ribbons in the first round with elbows and knees. And then by the time it was the third round, all I wanted was for him to win because he didn't stop fighting. And I think the last thing he'd done was attempt a flying heel hook last minute after losing like so many pints of blood. And it was that fight that really made me think, do you know what, this is like the only sport that really matters. Do you know what I mean? Like football, I was a big football fan growing up. But when I look at it now, after getting into MMA as much, I'm like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like there's really much at stake. What are we doing here? Like, try to kick a ball past a line? Like,
yeah, I get you. It's not as serious. It doesn't feel as full-blooded. I understand what you mean. Definitely.
Yeah, I feel like you can get so much, like, there's so much that goes into MMA. There's the pageantry, the sort of press conferences and things like that. But then you've got the mental side that a lot of people don't see, where the guys are backstage thrown up before their fights, because the most embarrassing thing most people can imagine is losing a fight. Maybe guys have had that sort of nightmare where, I don't know, they lose a fight in front of their girlfriend and they sort of feel, imagine doing that on a world stage in front of millions of people. And if you lose, you only get half the money you were going to before.
Pressure.
So the psychology, the actual athletic part of it, the sort of what style's best, because I know it's a more well-rounded sports now, but it's still interesting watching like Curtis Blades versus Tom Aspinall. Like, what's going to happen here? Is Curtis Blades going to manage to get this to the ground? What is better? Is it the sort of footwork and the light strike? I don't know. I just feel like it's sort of the ultimate sport that encompasses every aspect of life in a sort of 6-hour event. You know what I mean? There's so many highs and lows in it.
Mm-hmm. Very spot on, and there's so many different ways it can go as well, because not a lot of people realize. And so, let's say, for example, when someone gets into a fight and they get a cut above the right, and the fight stops because of doctor stoppage, you don't get a say in it, you don't get a go in it, and that's your fight instantly terminated. And you may even be standing there thinking, I'm all right, I can take this, I can keep on throwing punches. But if the doctor says no, it can easily be taken away. And you're absolutely bang on about that, actually. I agree with you. Not many people see the behind the scenes sides of MMA or fighting combat sports generally, because that's what kind of got me hooked when I was about, well, I don't know how, I can't remember how old I was, in about 2002, 2003 when the Ultimate Fighter started. But it's when you finally, for me, that was the first time you got to see beyond like what would be in like the entrance podium. You know what I mean? Because I grew up like I'm not. How old are you, may I ask?
I'm 28.
28. I'm 37, right? So I've got 9 years on you, right? But like you said a minute ago, watching like UFC on TV was so hard in England back in the day, because unless you had cable and you were lucky enough to maybe to catch it on something like Bravo or something back in the day, you wouldn't have seen it. So I do fully appreciate what you're saying, and my story is pretty much the same as yours in terms of how I got into MMA. I saw a very older UFC, a bit older, but I was lucky enough. I think I've told this story before when I was watching cable, your chipped cable around my mate's house.
Yeah.
And I remember like him scrolling through the channels, and we landed on Bravo, and they were showing UFC highlights, and like the first thing you see was this guy in his black gi, red belt. He's got this guy in a crucifix lock, and he's on the ground with
Yep.
him, and he's just going
Oh,
bang, bang,
what fight
bang.
was that? Was it? It wasn't Gary Goodridge versus someone.
I think it was Wes Gracie. It was Wes Gracie versus someone. It was Wes Gracie, I think, against so I can't remember which event. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure it
Yeah.
was Wes Gracie in the red gi and with the red belt. Sorry, black gi with the red belt. I'll find the clip to it and I'll send you it later. But that was the first thing I see, and I was just like, damn. Then the toughest guys I'd seen at that point were WWE wrestlers, like the Hogan's and all that kind of. And like you said, like with the same thing with the football. Like when you watch WWE, you don't feel as much as on the line because it's not. People say it's not real. Okay, it's real in terms of they do physical events, but the fights are not.
Yeah,
it's not
it's
all
choreographed. It's planned. Like you know what's they know what's going to happen before the sort of end of it. But I think your experience as well is that the UK and especially Sky Sports heavily advertise wrestling to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people got into it, but then it became sort of embarrassing. You know, after a while, a lot of people just didn't want to talk about it, and there'd be a select group of mates who'd admit it to, but no one else, because it sort of became a frowned upon thing. It was guys in their Speedos sort of covered up in baby oil, and it was fake. And
that was all 90s.
Yeah, so I think after that, when UFC came along, a lot of people straight away thought it was the same thing. Because on Bravo, I think there was like another wrestling thing on there, and then they played Ultimate Fighter, and then it was like a wrestling chat show after it.
Yes.
So I think there was like, I don't know, a lot of people stayed away from the UFC over here for a lot longer than the US because it was marketed to us pretty much as wrestling. You know what I mean? Anytime you did see it, it was around the wrestling product and stuff like that. So it took, I don't know, it wasn't until really McGregor even that it really took off over here, like that you'd see it on people's news feeds on Facebook and stuff like that.
Yeah, it became independent. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They always associated the two because it was just maybe the American sports, maybe. But you're right. Bang on. You never got one without the other.
Yeah, which it sucks because imagine how much further on our scene could have been. Like early on, the sort of Cage Rage guys were going over to the UFC and doing really well. Imagine if we just had that one big sort of promoter. We didn't have really anybody over here until Cage Warriors. It was just a bunch of independent events and
yeah, it was
stuff
very
like
broken
that.
up. It was very broken up over here. Oh, when did Cage Warriors get formed? Because that must have been what, late 90s, early 2000s, no? Cage Warriors. It's not that old either.
I want to say 2002. It may have been established.
Because one thing about it is that's one thing that did happen as wrestling kind of, and it's funny you said that because in 2002 wrestling was kind of dying out, but that big MMA boom, if you like, in over here in America was just about to happen because obviously you got fighters like Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz. Those guys that helped, like, and even Wanderlei Silva, because obviously some of the fighters from Pride, like you quite rightly, Shogun Rua, all them lot came over from Pride to fight in the UFC, and it got so many names in it. Then you got the second generation, as I like to call it. You got the Rampage Jacksons and the Rashad Evans, and I know it's not second generation in terms of like the fighters, but in terms of what we saw as the stars of the UFC and the MMA.
Yeah.
And you got the Anderson Silvers, and then you got the GSP.
But I think season 3 of the Ultimate Fighter, you had Bisping. He was quite instrumental in bringing a lot of events back to the UK.
Yeah, yes, he was, and he was up until recently. He was probably the only Brit to win a UFC title up until the weekend. I might add. But
but I had the pleasure of talking to Tom's training partner literally 2 days before the fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that Joffy. I just put the podcast up yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's one of Tom's main training partners, and he basically said on the podcast, Tom's going to win by knockout because Pavlovich isn't going to realise how quick he is. He's going to step back, catch him with a check hook, and leave him face down. And I was trying to convince him that it was going to be like Tom would eventually get a key lock or something like that. But yeah, dead on. So
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
weekend, that was a great one.
Actually, believe it, because when you look at Tommy Asu, like he's quite big anyway, so you can see that he's got the power. But you're right. I didn't expect him to be as quick as he was, because he actually, in a way, he actually fights like Bisbin in a way. It's funny actually you mentioned, because he's not got he's got Bisbin's sort of big frame, but he's got a little bit more speed to his game, if you know what I mean, because he's got that touch of lightning to him, because like he's quite a good puncher. When I was
Yeah,
watching the other night, and I was quite impressed with him, because I haven't seen many of his fights, and I'm catching up, because I took like a year out of like UFC and stuff like that, because I was just heading other things. But like I'm really impressed with him with what I see him, and of course we all love a Brit in the UFC
yeah,
giving it all the mouth, because I'm not being funny. There's not many people who entertain you more than what Bisbin does, especially with his mouth.
nah.
I love listening to him commentate. I love listening to him on his podcast. I love listening to him talk smack, because it's just so funny. But he obviously is factual. That's why we listen to him. Is there
Yeah, I think.
please?
Oh, I was just going to say, the thing with Tom is I think he's been doing boxing a lot longer than people realise. Like he's sort of family connected with the Furies and stuff like that. So
Are they?
he's trained boxing and stuff with Tyson. Tyson gave him a shout out on Instagram after the win and all that stuff. I'm not sure if it was Tom's dad used to coach or do a bit of coaching for Tyson in boxing or something like that. But yeah, both from Manchester and stuff like that. So makes sense that Tom's got better boxing than most people realise if he's been training with that lot.
Yeah, that's one of those
Farewell.
ones, unless you know who you're talking about, that's one that could slip under the radar, and you could maybe slightly underestimate him on that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Big up Mama Flossie in the chat, by the way. How are you, ma'am? I hope you're well.
Yep.
So that's a moderator for my channel, so I've always got to say polite, like be polite to the Queen when she's in the house.
Yeah, I see her in the Fight Week show chat too.
Oh, top lady, bro. Top
Yeah.
lady. Like this lady was so encouraging to me when I because I only started myself a couple of months ago. I'm new like you, and like her and Tony Ibarra, another guy that I know on Instagram, they've been so supportive and grateful to me, and it's probably their fault why I nagged you a bit. So you can blame if I was ever annoying to you. You can blame them.
Not at all, man.
Yeah, but
I appreciate what it's like.
Yeah. Oh, bless you, Wolf. Ma'am, no worries. You're an absolute diamond. I love you to pieces. Like you, even Ola as well. Because my very first episode of my podcast, when I did it, him and Naz were the first two people I had on. And I love it. Yeah. And the first thing is like, Wolfie, just take your time. Get one subscriber at a time and you'll be all right. Don't worry. And I was like, thanks, Ola. I much appreciate it. And I was on his channel for a watch along a couple of weeks. I'm still gassed about that, but I love just being involved in sports, man. I'm the kind of guy where obviously I do like football as well, but like I'm gonna ask you this similar question in a second. But when I was starting to become a man, I started really get back into fighting, because when I was a kid, I was really into fighting when I was from about 0 to 10. I love watching Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, all those old school sort of like Crystal Fist, all those old school like martial art movies.
The movies you get on Channel 5 at about 10 o'clock at night every Friday.
Yeah. Or if you're a bit older, about 2 o'clock on Channel 4, before there was Channel 5. Because you sometimes used to get the odd Kung Fu and Godzilla films. You used to get Godzilla films after 12 at 4 o'clock, Channel 4.
I vaguely remember that period of time where there was a lot of Kung Fu films. Do you remember something on Channel 5 called Martial Law?
Of course I remember Martial Law. Yeah, I remember that.
It pops into my head about 2 times a month. Just randomly, I'm like, what happened to that show and who was that sort of portly Asian man that we had doing Kung Fu? Like, I never seen him in anything else before. I never seen him in anything since.
I might have to check that up. Actually, I'm not sure. You've actually
Where
got
the
my
fuck did we find him? Like,
yeah, but you do think about these things, didn't you? When you think about the things that have gone, and you look back and you're like, what happened to that guy?
Yeah.
Because like obviously, like from about I don't know 10 to about 16, 17, I was a proper nerd and I like cars and I like robots and all that rubbish. But then I saw Anderson Silva. And that's the guy that really, because even I was watching, I didn't really have that much of a passion for it. And then I watched him fight Forrest Griffin. For me, that I know people will say he's too cheeky, he's too cocky, maybe Anderson Silva overrated himself. But just to have the nerve to go against someone, because I was a big fan of Stephen Bonner versus Forrest Griffin, to see someone absolutely toying with him like that was just like, what? I would,
Yeah,
like, and the thing is, it's not like Anderson Silva was even worried. Like, and I know if you haven't seen that fight, go back and watch it. Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin. And I know it's not the most balanced between like a back and full fight, but if you want to see striking in one of its purest forms in terms of
yeah.
counter striking and him waiting for Forrest to move before he even throws a punch, even the knockout punch is not even like a full connection. It's just like a half punch. But because Forrest is advancing on
It's
him
his
and he's
forward momentum on it that sort of
exact
knocks him out. Yeah.
big up. But the thing is, it looks class, regardless of how bad or good you think like whoever fought. It's just the way he goes. He steps back, boom, and he just drops Forrest. Now I don't know about anybody else, but I've watched Forrest Griffin quite a lot. That guy is no walkover. Not
No, I think Forrest Griffin got a lot of disrespect after that one, but people have to remember he was a light heavyweight champion. He managed to beat Rampage Jackson. He managed to beat Shogun Hua. Managed to beat Tito Ortiz. And Anderson Silva, he wasn't a light heavyweight. He was a middleweight that moved up. And he made Griffin just look old and slow at a time where he wasn't old and slow yet. Do you know what I mean? Like Anderson Silva just understood distance and stuff like that better than anyone before or probably after him. Maybe Adesanya might be a shout when he's in his prime form, but there's not many fighters that have like as good an eye for distance and sort of making you think he's somewhere that he's not going to be. Yeah, I don't. I think his title run was the most entertaining that MMA's ever been, personally for me.
Really, you reckon it's better than the Izzy run? You know, the McGregor run is better than another run.
I think because it was the only time that, other than John Jones, maybe everybody sort of universally agreed this is the baddest man on the planet. Like everybody knew while we were watching, like, yeah, this is the guy, and he's head and shoulders above everyone else. Then obviously Chael Sonnen was the first guy to sort of make him look human, and that gave us this great rivalry. Like, yeah, there was so much good going on at that point in MMA where it was just becoming the sport that we know now.
Yeah, that's when it was booming.
Yeah, it was balanced because it hadn't quite became as commercial yet. You know what I mean? So it had the best of both worlds.
And I do think the names at that point, because like you said, you had the Chael Sonnens, the Damian Myers. In the middle, you had obviously the GSPs. You had obviously the Matt Serras, the Matt Hugheses. All those kind of the Brock Lesnar was obviously still in and out of there as well. I'm not sure was Frank Mir still? No, he was still around. Yeah. Frank Mir was still around. Yeah. You had so many what I would say legendary fighters back then, if that makes sense, because like it was just. Yeah. I think Tito and Chuck were still fighting then as well. They were looking about maybe like
Tito fought a lot longer than people remember. Everybody thought he was away about the same time as Chuck, but Tito, remember, he like choked out Ryan Bader way later than he was meant to when he was on like a 4-fight losing streak in order to get a new contract, and then had another few bad fights. But yet the only thing that I didn't like about that time was the heavyweight division was the worst thing that's ever been in MMA. Like
Why?
with Tim Sylvia's and Andrei Arlovsky's, they just they weren't good fighters, and they just kept going back and forward and popping for steroids, and none of them were in shape.
Is Krokop still there?
Krokop came in a bit later. I think he was about between 2006 and 2008 when UFC bought Pride. He got brought in.
Because I know when I know Rua went in there about 2005, didn't it? And it was when that mass exodus from Pride to the UFC when they snapped up.
Yeah, but I think UFC bought Pride with the intention keeping them as two separate entities. So Dana goes over and tries to put an event, and the Yakuza come in. No, yeah, you have to pay us all this money if you want to run an event here. So Dana just went, fuck it, put it on the shelf and never went back to Japan and shut down the whole Pride thing. So that's how all the fighters all came over to the UFC, and we had all the crossover fights. It was it Shogun versus Forrest, and with Vanderlei versus Chuck at one point. Yeah, I think that was at the point where UFC were just going out and buying up all these companies. Like they bought up WEC, Strikeforce, Pride. Yeah.
Well, can you imagine what would happen if Pride was still around now? Can you imagine?
Yeah, I think the closest we've got to it's probably one. They're the big Asian competitor now. Have you watched much of ONE FC before?
I've never. You know what? I tell you what. I've started to get into EFC a bit. I've started to get into some of the other more smaller. But no, I haven't seen that. If you want to send me some bits and pieces, mate, and let me
Yeah,
get back to study and do so, mate, because I'm always open to like taking in more knowledge because I like sucking this stuff up like a sponge. Because
yeah.
I'm
So
one
the
of those.
good thing about one is they've got all their stuff on YouTube. They're the biggest, like they're bigger than the UFC in Asia, but they're usually on at about 10, 11 on a Friday morning here. But they have the best Thai fighters in the world, and they do it in a cage. They also have all their MMA division and stuff like that. It's where Mighty Mouse ended up going to after
Mm.
leaving UFC. But yeah, that's one of the things I'd heavily recommend. That's the closest we've got to Pride
Was it
now.
similar rule set, or was it more
Um,
UFC
yeah,
rules?
I think some of the rule sets they allow like kicks to ground the points and stuff like that. But it's like the pageantry and how big it is and how many fans they pack into these arenas and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um,
Fair
there's a
enough.
couple of UK Muay Thai fighters over there as well that are huge. I'll send you a few videos later for highlights.
Yeah, please, much. I'd be much obliged, dude. Because as I said, I'm looking to not. I'm not looking to do what you and obviously like another rambling daddy we know and another certain
Yeah,
what you guys. I'm sticking more to the fan side of things. I don't. I'll be real with you. I don't really want to interview fighters. I don't really want to like try and do what you guys are doing because I'm still sticking to the fan side of it in terms of like I'm just enjoying the events as they come and being like everyone else and sitting it. If it's a great event, I'll be like everyone. I'll be like ooh, like everybody else. But
yeah,
it doesn't help. It doesn't like hurt to learn. So I'm
yeah. I
always up
think
for that.
for most people, they don't really appreciate what's good about sticking to the fan side of it, which is you can always be liberal with your opinions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Sometimes if you have to work around fighters or interview them and things like that, you have to be a bit more restricted on what you're
Yeah, you gotta
saying.
be
You know what I
careful.
mean?
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Obviously, you gotta be
Yeah, but I
professional.
think there's been a lot of people, especially in the football space, that have made quite a good channel size off of just fan content and giving opinions and getting stuff from that side of things.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. And strangely enough, I do a lot of fan content about football as well. But with me, I'm trying to do more of a community content. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
maybe like okay, maybe this is me just being crazy or stupid, but maybe like 1 or 2 years down the line when you've got 2,000 subscribers, other Jordan has got 2,000 subscribers and maybe I've got 150 or something, whatever. I can sit there and go, okay, let me invite the boys on and we can have a little panel show and we can just discuss it as MMA fans. I would love to have you,
yeah, yeah,
Jordan, Naz, Ola, Leroy. I'd love to have all of us on one show, just not competing like, oh, who's the best. What just hey, look, as fans, what do we all think of this? What do we all think of that? Because that's
yeah,
one thing. Because that's one thing I say. Like maybe for me personally, when it comes down to MMA, something that's not exploited a lot in terms of just like with football, like when you see all the fan channels now about the clubs and stuff like that. Maybe there's not enough of that in terms of just general. I know there's people that will stick with certain fighters, but in
yeah,
terms of just general love for the sport, like just be there. Oh, yeah, what did you think of this? Because it was such a good fight, or what did you think of this? But then I can ask about Naz, I can ask you, or I can ask Ola
yeah,
or whatever, and just get everyone's feedback. Because one thing about it is everyone's different. Everyone's com- everyone's comical in their own way. You're comical. You're funny. I remember the first time I saw you on the obviously on the Fight Week show a few weeks ago when Will came into the group and started talking. You told everyone to say "F Will." And
yeah.
like a complete donut, I was the first one that went F space WILL, and everyone else in the chat did it. So I just thought, oh shit, what have I done? Like, sorry, Will, if you ever see this, mate, I was only tick joshing, but
uh,
obviously you ran with it and it was hilarious. So you know what I mean? Big up.
Will knows it's all love, man. I think Will's at his best when he's got somebody to play off and sort of, you know what I mean? He's never content just sitting there being happy. So you sort of need to give him something to moan at times just to sort of bring out the best in him.
Don't him and Ola always bitch at each other, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, those two are like an old married couple, man.
Yeah, they are a little bit.
It's even worse than a group chat. Like it doesn't get any better. But
Oh,
yeah, I think Will's young for his age in the ways that he likes things. You know what I mean? He quite likes being antagonistic. And
yeah,
Ola, I think, as he's getting older, he's getting a shorter fuse every
yeah.
year that goes by. So
I swear, I'm waiting that, and I'm just joshing when I say this, Ola, but every time I see him on a watch along recently, especially if it's a late one, I'm always waiting to see the minute when you see him fall
Oh,
asleep.
you frozen a second.
Oh, have I? Am I
Yep,
normal again?
normal now.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But yeah, with Ola, I'm waiting to get that camera shot where we're watching an event. It'll be like UFC 325 or whatever, and we see Ola sleeping in the corner. It's like with his cap down, like what I mean. And Naz still sitting there ranting about her, like, "What do you think, Ola?" And
Yep.
because that guy works. Like, not many people realize that about Ola. He grinds, man. This guy does so
Yeah, you
much.
have to be fair to the guy. Like he's out there putting time in. Yeah, I think Ola's
But
someone who I think he's trying to sort of get himself in a schedule more, which is awful when Will's about because he always wants an extra chat. So, see when the show ends on StreamYard,
hang on,
Ola will
Georgie.
be in a hurry because George G.
Yeah, you guys, Georgie G. Ola at UFC London. He slept. Hang on. Is that an accusation, or can you actually prove that?
I know that Jordan that you had on, he did fall asleep at UFC London as well.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he just had a bit
Oh,
too much to drink and fell asleep in his chair.
oh no! I wish F
And
Will.
F
See,
Will.
let me go. Look, don't start. We were just talking about that. Don't bring that up. That was just a one time. Don't let that carry on. I was out of order for doing it in the first place, to be honest.
I reckon I'm gonna have to bring it back. I enjoy like Will seems confused, see, because he's always late. I reckon if we just get people to type different things in the chat every week, he'll fucking eventually get freaked out or lose his shit. I mean, I'm hoping to break him at some point and he just screams and exits the stream, but
break him.
Yeah.
Hang on, we might have an explanation to why Ola fell asleep. I'm not going to read that out. Too many roll ups.
Yeah, happens to the best of us, man.
Yeah. That's what happens when you smoke that old Oban, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But going back to it, was there any fighters for you when you were growing up and you started? Who were the standouts for you? Give me who was your favorite fighters when you were first getting into? Give me your top three. Big up Jaminio. Everyone sub up to Jordan's channel, yeah. Fight Scribe. It's in the top of the chat. Please big this guy up, man. He's such a lovely dude. He's you're gonna see a lot of this guy, man. Hopefully a lot of this guy on my
I
channel
hope
too.
so. Yeah, mate, I'm always about it.
What's up, Afghan? Sorry, Jordan. Please.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, I've got a few. So Crow Cop was one of them because I thought it was he looked like the Ivan Drago at MMA. If you if you have to think to yourself, who looks like a guy that fucks people up for a living? It was him. You know what I mean? It's very much.
Well, I mentioned Crow Cop a minute ago. Really,
yeah, it was. Andy's style
get
was
out of here, Afghan. I'm sorry. Get out of here with all this rubbish. We were just talking about no WWE, all right? You're going to get my finger pointed at you, Hulk Hogan style, all right? None of that WWE talk. So you were saying, Mikhail Krokop, I apologize.
Yeah, he's definitely one of them. Anyone that like when you first get into MMA, it's hard to sort of understand the grappling side of it. And most of the time, you just got your fingers crossed that everything gets stood back up. And Crow Cop was just an anti-wrestler. Always wanted to throw that big head kick.
Yeah, that's what I liked about Crow Cop. He loved chucking kicks.
Chuck Liddell, for me, was the guy that I thought was the MMA superstar. He was the only sort of MMA fighter that you would consistently see pop up. Like you see him in TV shows at random times and things like that as well. Wildly entertaining style. I hated watching him towards the end when you knew his chin had just left.
Yeah.
But
And he got knocked out so many times. Yeah, you're right. That was heartbreaking, actually. That was. Not many people realize that about actually. Okay, big up Jordan for saying that because not many people actually realize how much. Yeah, he was a bit of a kickboxer, Afghan C4. That's what he done. He got famous for in Pride.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't underrate the guy had talent and he had a good build on him as well. That guy was like a brick shithouse at times, man. He was serious.
There was only two guys really at that time. It was Crow Cop and Mark Hunt. They'd both won K1 tournaments before they came to Pride, and that's how they got in. Mark Hunt's another good one for just purely entertainment value. And Joe Loza, another guy I'd mentioned as well. He was a I don't think he ever had a boring fight. But if I was to ever recommend a fighter for someone to go and watch back through his like fight history, it's Joe Lozon. Like, more fight of the night bonuses than anyone in history, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, should change the name to Wolf Den to MMA Den. It's not going to be an MMA Den if there's still a wolf sitting in it, Abaya. Thank you for your opinion. I appreciate that and I respect it. But I'm very happy just saying the Wolf Den. We'll keep it uncomplicated. So was there a third fighter that stuck out in your mind, or just those two?
I think there's so many fighters like over the course of time. Jose
Well,
Aldo. Oh,
ah,
Jose Aldo was definitely. I remember when he fought Uriah Faber, and then Faber showed a picture of his leg, and it's the most. Like, you looked at, and it looks as though his leg's ready to fall off at any minute. And
yeah,
he was one of the first guys that you'd look at their leg kicks, and it genuinely. Oh, because when I first started watching MMA, I knew that leg kicks could be effective after doing Muay Thai and stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
I didn't realize just how fight ending they could be.
Yeah, they are.
You
They
know
can
what I
be
mean?
very dangerous.
But like some guys would kick their legs and they'd seize up, sort of bent at the knee, and they couldn't put the leg straight again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was another one that watching even in WEC before he got to the UFC, I really enjoyed.
Nice, and yes, you're right. Good fighter, man. Very good fighter. Just for the sake of conversation, my three fighters in terms of grappling, I have to submissions. I have to say BJ because you're right. Not many people realize the technical side of the grappling and the kicking. Because one thing about it is like, and this is where the MMA world's kind of taking the association of boxing a little bit in the terms of like people watch it for the knockouts. If you know what I mean, they're looking for leg kicks, they're looking for like head punches, they're looking for maybe a spinning elbow or a spinning back fist to end it. But when it comes down to BJ Penn, I appreciated a guy that was on the floor and knew how to tie a guy up, even if he wasn't necessarily as big as him. Because that's what I liked about BJ. He could knock it. One thing I liked about it, he could knock you out because he had that balance to his game. He had it on the grounds as well as stand up. But it was one of those ones where he would prefer, I think he said he'd prefer to submit, but it's the way he was like a spider, brother, the way he would wrap around people's bodies and tuck his legs in and shove it in awkward places. And I've never seen it before as well, but I've never seen anyone try and block a full mount by bringing the guy down and then trying to put their leg on the back of his head. It was just like, what? Like I've never.
Yeah,
It was that kind of unusual style because not many people defend the way BJ used to defend. It was all like, as I said, legs on the back of limbs and stuff. It was all designed to jar your position and stop you from moving. And I didn't really appreciate it when I watched him. You know what I mean? Like, but as I got older and I started like, understanding the more technical side of it and learning it a bit more myself, I just thought, like,
yeah,
what an amazing guy. And again, with GSP with his wrestling, because obviously BJ was obviously Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. But if you want to talk about a guy who, because this is okay, I don't know, this is probably an
oh,
obvious
you
thing.
frozen a second.
Have I? Hang on, am I back again? Back again?
Now you are. Oh,
Right, you have to forgive my internet. It's a bit because, as I said, it's been wet out here, so it's a bit crappy because the wires. BJ was a revolutionary by defending with the legs in the normal now. Paul Craig this weekend will do it. Okay, Georgie G, thanks for that take. If everyone can hear me. Ooh, can you hear me, Jod? It's frozen. Hang on, let's see if I can sort things back out. Can you hear me, lads? Let's see, Daisy. One second, folks. My internet's gone absolutely scrambled. That was my fault. Uh, uh, uh. Hang on a minute. Yeah. No issues for me, Wolf, just my mate. It might be the connection, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna see if I can add him back in again. I've just told him to try again. Because for me, I'm not sure if that was me or him, but it kind of froze and stopped and I couldn't see him moving anymore. So damn good conversation as well. That sucked. See if we can try again. All right, be right back. So yeah, all right. He said hopefully be right back. So I'll give him a minute. You're right. It was him, not me. But so yeah, people in the chat. All right. Oh, here he comes again. Here we go. Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, internet went down. I thought it was you, but
Don't blame me for your internet, man. No, I'm not gonna lie. I actually thought it was me as well. I started checking everything. I was going through. I was like, shit, I've screwed up. Never mind.
I think
Anyway,
my cat's attacking the Wi-Fi box or something.
your cat's attacking the Wi-Fi box.
Yeah, something's going on.
Some of those blue lights, like, yeah, but yeah, as I said, so we'll move on briefly because obviously we said a few fighters, but as I said, GSP for me, one thing I liked about GSP, just ending that conversation quickly, was the fact of this guy had loads of holes in his game, but as he was getting older as a fighter, he eliminated most of them, if not all of them, if you know what I mean. This is a guy that as each year come back, GSP would, like, whether you like him or not, it's fair enough, but he would build it all up and like get it back.
Yeah.
All of his skill sets high level and equal as well. So you couldn't really take him down, you couldn't really like beat him up, and you couldn't really submit him. So stop laughing, Afghan. It's not funny, man. When you're trying to do a podcast and internet goes, it's not funny, man. We're trying to make a living here. Who are you making fun of? Who are you making fun of? But anyway, so
I think the thing with BJ and GSP as well is they're both two of the first like complete MMA fighters. Do you know what I mean? But BJ Penn was good on the feet and on the ground. GSP the exact same. They're both sort of like evolutions. And then I think probably your next one up would be John Jones. Do you know what I mean? These guys, there was only actually been few fighters that will take the fight anywhere and be the best there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were
GSP
complete.
could outstrike or out-wrestle anyone in his division on any given day. Mm-hmm. And it was the same with BJ as well.
Would you say, actually, I'm trying to think of another one off the top of my head, but who would you say, in terms of all the fighters we've seen, regardless of whether you're favorite or not, who would you say, okay, you said BJ, you said GSP, and you said Jones. Is there any other one else you can think of that was as complete as those three?
I think the most complete ever is Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse. I don't think there's ever been a more skilled martial artist. He's just never going to be appreciated because of the weight division he was in. But yeah, if you watch technically how good he is anywhere, but he just managed to win, well, not win, but survive Muay Thai rounds with the greatest Muay Thai fighter ever over and won. Yeah, he's underrated because Dana never really liked him. Dana doesn't like people that don't sell pay-per-views, and the 125 division, it's never been one that's made much money. So unfortunately, he'll probably never get the credit he deserves compared to everyone else. But I think Mighty Mouse is probably pound for pound the greatest MMA fighter ever live. It's between him and Jones.
Mm-hmm. And what about Mighty Meister's style do you particularly like, or what stands out for you then?
I mean, when he was active, like, a lot of his fights were actually quite boring.
Mm-hmm.
But like, oh, my phone. Yeah, I think in every aspect, he was so much better after every fight. Like, if you remember the Ray Borg fight where he got the sort of flying armbar after faking a suplex. Yeah, I just feel like he understands the game. Him and his coach, Matt Hume, might be the greatest combo that have ever sort of worked together. He understands the game in such a different level. Like, his understanding of space, his understanding of striking, his jiu-jitsu. Like, he just took up jiu-jitsu in a gi about 3 or 4 months ago. Obviously, he trains mainly no gi because that's what he uses in MMA. Never entered a tournament before, and he just went in and won gold at ADCC. But he's good at whatever he wants to be good at because he puts that much time and thought into his stuff. But John Jones is the greatest natural talent to ever live, I would argue. But he hasn't always been the hardest worker, and that's maybe resulted in him having lackluster performances. And like, if everybody remembers his OSP fight or his Dominic Reyes fight, he might have had a few fights he should have lost that people like to forget about as well.
Good stuff.
GSP as well. He's another one. For me, I would put him as the GOAT because he's proven more than maybe Mighty Mouse. You know what I mean? I think Mighty Mouse is a better martial artist pound for pound, but GSP coming back managing to win the middleweight title. And he's never popped. He's never popped, which for me it counts for a fair bit. He's the only one that managed to stay clean out of him, Jones and Silva. So
yeah, that's true. I know that. Yeah, but there was all that thing about with him and the aliens, though, isn't it? Like one silly thing that came to another with when it comes to GSP, because that Joe Rogan interview with him, and it's kind of legendary and infamous now because he talks about the aliens and when he can't remember his memory. But I think that was just his sleep disorder, really, and it's just.
I think Johnny Hendricks done that to him. I think that fight was just too bad.
Oh, but well, would you reckon John he scrambled his brains that much?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that because he knocked it? Didn't he knock him out?
No. So basically, that was like the fight that GSP retired off of for the first time, because GSP got a shady decision.
That's right.
It was so beat up by Johnny Hendricks. Like Johnny Hendricks just sort of punched him around the cage for 5 rounds. And they went to the press conference, and Johnny Hendricks looks like $1 million, probably for the last time in his career before he started having all those weight issues. But GSP just you're looking at his face and you're like, well, no, that guy doesn't look like he's won much, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Was it like the Fury fight a couple of weeks ago? In terms of you look like you're the winner, but you don't look it because your face is smashed in.
Yeah, everybody sort of agreed unanimously at the time that, wait, what? In fact, Dana even came out at the post-fight press conference and says GSP didn't win that fight, while GSP was still his active champion. So, yeah, that shows you how bad that went.
Well, he's the boss, and if he wants to call something out, he'll just call it out. And Dana's never given a shit about what anyone else thinks. So, if he's that's why I have to say that's one thing I do like about Dana White. He more or less cuts it pretty clean, regardless of whether you agree with everything he says or not, or does or not. But I'm telling you, in terms of for the sport, in terms of trying to be entertaining for everyone, and it was the first sport to resume after COVID, or even keep on going during, because they had COVID Island, didn't they, as well, when they continued to carry it all on. So, I will say this: that guy, when it comes to cranking out entertainment, looking after or trying to get the best fights on, I'll give that guy his credit, man. He's a flipping machine. He just cranks it all out. Would you say going into more modern MMA now? We had UFC 295 over the weekend, which I thought was quite. I didn't watch all the preliminary cut. Jordan said you need to go back and watch how did he say it? You need to go and watch the preliminary card, man, because it was so many good fights there, and there was a draw on there. He said that was arguably fight of the night. He said, but not many people noticed it because it was the prelim. So I'm gonna go watch that later on, maybe when I have my dinner. But I want to know from you, who is the standout fighter that you think is around in MMA nowadays? And is there anyone that personally catches your eye, regardless of their level or performance? But is there anyone now that you would recommend to keep an eye out on?
It's hard to think.
I know. I always love putting you guys on the spot when I say that. It's a difficult question, but
there's a lot of
there's so many names probably. Who specifically? I'm sorry, mate.
I think right now the guy that I'm most invested in watching is the guy that's fighting Volkanovski next, which is Ilia Topuria. He's a Spanish-Georgian guy, for anybody that doesn't know. But he out-wrestled Bryce Mitchell, who I thought was going to out-wrestle him. This guy's been looking, obviously, to fight Paddy for about 2 years now. And the guy would kill Paddy. I think, that's going to be Volkanovski's hardest fight at featherweight. So that's one guy that I've been looking out for.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Craig fights this weekend, obviously. He's not a young up-and-comer, but recently went to middleweight. It's his first main event this weekend.
Anyone you
And
like, dude. They don't have to be young or old. Anyone you like, dude. I'm interested in
just
hearing what
people
you
I'm keeping an eye on at the minute.
Yeah, I want to hear what you've got to say. That's the main thing
Right.
about it.
So there's one guy who's just signed with Cage Warriors. And I was training at higher level gym for a short period of time, and everybody was raving about this guy. He's Paul Craig's sort of main training partner now. His name's Sean Clancy Jr. I think he's 5-0 now as a pro. He just debuted at Cage Warriors and won in the first round. But I think this is the next guy from over here that's going to go over and make waves.
Mm-hmm.
He's 20 now, and he is a gorilla. Like, he looks like Tarzan.
What? He's got that kind of like lanky, overbearing shape, or like the proper cut.
Yeah, do you know that sort of proper cut? Like, he's a tank. Like, it looks like he grew up like, swinging from tree to tree. He's built like a gorilla. He's only like 20. You know what I mean? He's going to be a light heavyweight at some point in his career. But I was first told about him when he was about 15. His whole family fights. His dad was a fighter. All his brothers are fighters, and he basically lives in the higher level gym. And he's around like all these top talents for such a young age. I've got a lot of hope that that's going to be the guy that wins Scotland the World Championship. Because we've been fucking waiting a while. To win anything really, as Scottish people, it's hard, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that, bro. My blood roots are Irish. We're even worse than you, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got qualified for the Euros quicker than nearly anybody. So it'd be good to get put at that in the first round. I'm looking forward to that. we just like getting an invite these days. That is great.
I'll tell you what football team do you support, John?
Me, so I grew up as a Celtic fan.
Right.
But as I became older, I became a gambler. I was working in a bookies, and at the same time, like, betting was sort of the only thing I was focusing on. And I realised how stupid it is to support a football team. So I support the national team now because I feel like shouting at these people that get paid $100,000 a week in order to kick a ball over the line, and then you just sort of get to the end and you just go, "That was good, wasn't it?" And then I don't know, man. I sort of fell out with love with football as like a spectator sport because I was trying to treat it more like an analytical one. So I'm looking at sort of possession stats and shots on targets and who's been booked most this week. And if you start following a team loyally, you start making sort of bad decisions. But I tell you what, I have been following Wrexham since all this shit's kicked off with the Welcome to Wrexham stuff.
Yeah, you've been watching the Wrexham documentary. That's what Welcome to Wrexham.
Yeah, man. So
it's because of Ryan Reynolds, and they are nice people. I feel.
Yeah, I genuinely found it like a sort of. At first, I wasn't sure what to expect. Like, I still watch a lot of content on football when it comes to like documentaries and stuff like that, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it sort of really nice and sort of honest portrayal of this town and the characters in it and how much it sort of means to them.
I think because Wrexham are not high up, it goes more towards grassroots football than what we'd associate as the commercial Premier League of football, where the only hype really is from the people involved in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
I've had no interest in see all these sort of other things that Amazon are trying. Like, they're trying to do one in Newcastle and Man City, and this is just fucking billionaires trading their favourite players while they're billionaires. Like, this is, I've no interest in this. This is like, do you know what I mean? You've got Bruno Fernandes running about the middle of the pitch high-fiving fucking Chinese people because your market over there pays for you to keep your lights on. Like, I don't know, it's just, I don't like the whole commercial side. It's a whole weird thing, man. But
it feels very sold out. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, I didn't realise it happened at Celtic, it happened at Man United. Where part of the conditions of the sponsorship was that they signed these players from that country and they played a certain amount of minutes. So there was like a period in Celtic's history where they signed like 3 Chinese players and none of them could really play football. And everybody's sort of sitting a bit scratching their head, and why the fuck are we signing
These
these
players.
random people, man? And yeah, so I look into it, and it turns out it happened to Man United as well. When Fergie was in charge, they had to sign some Chinese guy and keep him there for 4 years in order to land this lucrative, like, see the pre-season tours Man U used to do every year, the
When you
basic
see
ones and
Singapore.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One of the conditions was they had this Chinese player in their squad. So I don't know. I found it a bit more
Yeah. I
easy
know
to watch it, the lower leagues and stuff like that. I enjoy that a bit more.
it feels more real and I know exactly what you mean because I'm a Leighton Orient fan as well. I know I've got a Chelsea
Yeah,
badge on, but I'm a Leighton O's fan as well. And the reason why is because they just happen to be 2, 3, 4 roads down that way. Because I'm actually big up Yeti in the chat, by the way. Big up long haired Yeti.
how's it going?
A Yeti, as a man who's learning MMA again, just like me, sub to this guy, bro. Jordan is a serious, good guy, bro. He does a lot of good content and he's up and coming. Big up to this guy, bro. Give this guy a
Working on it,
sub,
man.
and I'm learning from him as well. I've had a fantastic conversation with him. Smash him a sub, bro, and big up yourself, a long-haired Yeti, and he's a nice guy as well. Shouting you out, Jordan. Big up, dude.
Yes, well, mate.
But yeah, back to it. Back to MMA a bit more. Now, you said you were training. Now, what you said you did Muay Thai for? How long did you do Muay Thai for?
So I done Muay Thai from the ages of like maybe 11, 12 till I was 16, 17. After that, I just sort of stopped physical activity. I decided it was no longer important in my life and got on with doing a bunch of other weird stuff.
Yeah, girls and all
Yeah.
that. You did what all Scottish lads do from about 15 to about 20.
Yeah.
You went a bit nuts, did you?
Yeah. We're like, do you know those Amish people where they get like a year off from being Amish? We won't get. Did you hear about that? Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I managed to sort of get up to like 16 stone in weight, which yeah,
You
not
don't seem
small.
you're not a tall guy though, are you? You don't look tall.
No. But 5'8", 5'9".
Wow.
Yeah. I managed to get big.
Was it health threatening?
I never went to a doctor's during that period. For a long time, I was just sort of, all I was doing was like working, drinking, and some more illicit stuff that got myself in some trouble. So, yeah, for a long time, I just didn't really have any sort of feasible way to go back to the gym. You know what I mean? It didn't seem realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sort of went through a bad patch, and at the other side, I decided to start walking. And then it went for that. I think one day I managed to do like 26 miles. And I went sort of wild with it and got back down to about 8.5 stone. So I dropped about half my body weight. But I'd went too extreme. So at that point, I was a bit too sort of weak to be doing anything. And one day I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to get back into Muay Thai. And I went down to the local gym. I'll not mention.
What age were you at this point?
Oh, this was only about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, I mean, you were 23. Okay.
Yeah. And I'd seen sort of a local gym, went down there, and it wasn't really a gym. It says on it was basically beginner classes, which is the route I decided to take. It had been that long and I'd been that out of shape that I'd better starting off slow.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down the first day. It worked me out until I threw up and then told me I had to spar with everybody in the gym. And I just got the shit beat out of me. Like
Everyone.
No way. Yeah. So the first guy, I walk in and he goes, see him over there? I go, aye. He goes, that's the Polish hooligan. That's who you're sparring first. Now, you can imagine you don't...
The Polish hooligan as well. What?
Yeah. Now, if you hear that name, like it doesn't inspire confidence, and he lived up to it. So I just got sort of kicked about the gym for a bit, and then just went through everybody one by one. And then I went back the next time, and we worked out. I didn't throw up, and we had to spar again. And this time, a guy wheel kicks me. Now, I turned into the coach because whenever I've sparred, you're never throwing real kicks or elbows or knees or
Yeah,
stuff like
full
that.
contact. Yeah, full contact.
And he just shouts, "Good Dutch kickboxing." What the fuck do you mean Dutch kickboxing? Like,
Full boxing.
I'm barely even kickboxing in English here, and he's fucking bilingual. Like, do you know what I mean? So after that, I'd sort of questioned that gym a bit and went to higher level, which that's where like Paul Craig and Stevie Ray and a lot of the fighters from over here train.
Yeah.
And I'd managed to meet like a few of the fighters and stuff like that. So yeah, it's only really been in like the past 3 or 4 years really I've been back at training and getting invested in it.
Oh, fair enough. And as long as you find yourself in it and you find that you're comfortable with it, because believe it or not, I was in a similar situation. No, I didn't get back into martial arts, which I regret because I was big at like when I was younger. A few of us did kickboxing from about 7 to 10, 11ish. Then we all stopped. Then like a similar story to yours, but by the time I really got back into fighting, which was 25, 26, I was already like trying to like help with a house and all that kind of shit. So I never really got a chance to get back into a fighting gym. But I got mad. Like, I got into coaching with the kids and like in certain schools because there was a neighbor of mine who was a professional coach and he did coaching with Leighton Orient. And he said
Yeah.
to me, but a lovely guy, a Turkish guy, called Ozzy, and he was always like, nephew, one day come with me. And I'm like, yeah, uncle, no problem. You know, you don't really, yeah, uncle, no problem,
Yeah.
no problem, yeah, no problem. And then one day I actually went with him, right? And
Mhm.
but the one, but Ozzy was because he said, if you're going to come with me, you might as well train with them. And I'm thinking, why am I going to sit there and train with a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds? But it was actually quite clever of him because it actually helped rebuild my fitness. Because when you're running around and you're like 25, 26, and you're running around the people that are 15, 16, right? Like these guys have got some of these guys were young and they were healthy and they have massive gas tanks. So
Yep.
he knew me like just doing like little warm up bits with them for a couple of weeks just got me back into fitness. And then I was starting to play with them like on like when they were doing like training matches and stuff like that. It would get me back into it, and it really brought up my health again, dude. I had a
Yep.
beautiful six pack back then, man. It was gorgeous, and I just started when I was finished going work. I would go running, come home, do a couple of hundred press ups, couple of hundred sit ups, maybe hit skipping rope. Oh, by the way, I will emphasize this to everybody: skipping is one of the best things you can do for your footwork, for your back, for your legs, and for your body coordination. It's better than running. The only thing that's better when it comes down to not using a fully equipped gym is probably swimming for me in terms of all-round body exercise. If you want to build up your cardio, build up your muscles, go swimming. You'll exercise every single muscle in your body, and you'll even exercise muscles that you never even thought you had. But it's very difficult to swim properly. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just find because I like the fact of like with certain people, and it sounds like you're similar to me in the sense of we left it, done other things for a few years, and then come back to it, and we'll probably love it even more now than what we did the first time, if that makes sense. And that's probably what I'm trying to get at here in terms of like we rediscover our passion for it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm pretty sure you said about when you had to go through every single person, and I bet you if you went into another gym and someone said you to the same thing, you'd probably be like, either like stop winding me up because obviously you'd want it more professional, or you'd be like, all right then, like if you want me to go through, just make sure like if I hurt these guys, no one complains, you know? Because
Yeah.
if you,
The thing is with these gyms, the really good ones understand that like you're a real person. Like, listen, I'd love to just go and spar and take what happens, and if I win, I lose, I lose. But at the end of the day, I can't be going somewhere 2 or 3 times a week and then coming home with like a stiff leg or bruises on my face, or I need some kind of professional control. Like, you need to be able to control yourself in there. I need to be able to get in technique and fitness, and you have to know when you're going to be in a fight. You know what I mean? In some of these gyms, there are guys in there who are not good enough to be a professional fighter, but are too good to be hanging about gyms all day trying to fight new guys.
yeah,
You know what I mean? There's a lot of these people whose ego sort of resides within that gym and their place in the pecking order in that gym. And these aren't professional fight gyms. So maybe he's got a 5-5 amateur record, but that's about as far as his MMA career goes. but he can be the man in that gym and pick on new guys. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
The better the gym you go to, you can tell what a good gym is by if there's professional fighters training there. If there isn't, there's a good chance this is just a fucking
Meat house.
either you end up with a bullshido coach who's trying to teach you the ancient art of cucumber slice and choke holds and things he's made up in his garage. You know what I mean? These people are out there, man. There was one near me, and instead of calling it a gym, it's a martial arts studio. And the guys in there, like, doing these demonstrations of the karate chops that put people unconscious if you go near them. And there's so many bad martial arts schools out there, man.
That sounds shit. Even the name just sounds off. That doesn't sound like a place I would want to go. Now, obviously, I've had an hour of your time. I don't want to take too much more. So
that's all right, man. I've got time.
No, that's cool. But I don't like to assume. It's been an absolute diamond of a conversation. I've really enjoyed having you on. I got a feeling if it wasn't for the fact we had a little technical glitch about 20 minutes ago, I got a feeling the audio people have been coming in and out, but like we had about 4 people watching a minute ago and we crashed and little stuff. It's just been people coming in and out. But one thing I will ask you about, because I did ask you about this the other day, and you said you had mental health issues, right? And I'm someone who's had mental health issues myself. I find that when I come on YouTube and talk with people about it helps not only myself, because let's be honest, particularly in the fight game when we're all like supposedly burly men that can throw punches and kicks and all that, not many people think about that. And that's the one thing that, particularly men's mental health, I don't know why. And I'm not picking on women or anything, but men's mental health these days is one of the most ignored things in the world, because not many people realize this, but 78% of suicides are guys.
Yep.
All right. So, like, for me, it's very important. And my brother Yeti, who was just in the chat, big up brother Yeti, he covers it as well. With obviously Jazz does as well. But mental health for me is absolutely massive, because if you're not good here, you're not good anywhere. And I'm pretty sure, like, I'm going to ask you if you're comfortable with me asking you about. Is that okay?
Yeah, very much so. I'm
sweet. Yeah, cool, bro. But it's always nice to have the respect for your guests. You know what I mean? I don't want to just drop something on you. That's not the way I do things. But May, can you tell me what you went through and what effect it had on you?
So I was for a long time someone who had undiagnosed ADHD. Basically, I was sort of flagged up for it in childhood, but it was something that naughty children who weren't very bright had when I was younger. And my mum wasn't really sort of too keen on that label, so it was never something I got checked into or anything like that. It wasn't something I found out about until later life, but up until then I hadn't really had any way to deal with it or know about it, because it was never something I've been told about. So I made a lot of sort of rough life choices that maybe a lot of people who could control their impulses wouldn't have made. For a long period of my life I was sort of involved with drugs and some of the vices that you get caught in council estates and stuff like that. And
East London guy, bro. I know exactly what you mean.
So at one point that had sort of led me to being voluntarily put in a hospital and stuff like that. Because one night I'd sort of flipped out and threw my phone at my best mate and sort of split his head open and stuff like that, and I would just sort of lose my mind for a while.
You threw your phone at your mate's head and split his head open?
But this was at a point in my life where I'd just constantly been doing whatever drugs I could find. Like, it was, cocaine was sort of the main one that I was addicted to. But on top of that, like, I would try any, so like acid, DMT, sort of stuff like that. And it just sort of led me to the point where I wasn't really in control of my own brain anymore. And it wasn't until after I was sort of diagnosed and looked into what the condition actually meant, a lot of things started making sense, and I wasn't sort of as harsh on myself for some of my decisions, and started understanding maybe why I was making those decisions. That and looking at your sort of your group around you and your influences, and realising that you're only as good as the people you're standing next to. You know what I mean? You can try as hard as you want to stop making bad choices, but if everyone else around you is sort of enabling them,
Yeah,
it's
there's no one there to stop you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah. And at the time, I was still sort of working a normal job in the bookies and things like that. And the day I got out of the hospital was the day COVID happened.
Oh shit, it was as recent as that.
Yeah. And I sort of came out of there, and through that whole period of time, I quit my job at the bookies and decided I was going to work in MMA somehow. I didn't quite know how. Didn't have any real defined plan. And yeah, I think that's sort of one of the things that managed to get me back to being a normal human, I guess. That my girlfriend that I met around about the same time.
Nice. Was that the same one you had to go for airport yesterday?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been to Vegas together since then. We've Amsterdam. We've sort of done a bit of travelling, and life's been a lot different. But it's a lot of things have sort of came together in a really short period of time that I feel
Amazing how your
grateful and
luck can
lucky for.
change. It's amazing how your luck can change, bro. You
Yeah,
know what? The same thing is, you know, this time I had something like that today, right? How your luck can change, like because with me, just going on the mental. One thing where I've been struggling recently, where I've been injured, because I ripped my clavicle on my shoulder, on my right side. Like, I don't know, actually, I don't know if you can see it. Or not. Let me see if I can pull up so you can see this. Can you see that, George? Oh,
yeah,
can you
yeah,
see it? Can you
yeah. I
see
can
that?
see it now.
There's
Yeah,
a note, and it goes all the way up my shoulder. You might be able to see it. I got my Chelsea, but it goes all the way up.
yeah,
But one of the things that I had, because normally I'm quite an active guy myself, and I had loads of issues when I was a kid as well. People thought I had ADHD and stuff like that when I was a kid, but it turned out that because with my mental health thing, when I was like 7 or 8, I had a lot of struggles in terms of in school and stuff because we had a proper like Catholic teacher back in the day, and obviously you can imagine me being a little bit older than you. That some of the teachers were a bit more old school, and this
yeah,
Catholic teacher, she was a bit funny because I was left-handed, but she would obviously be an old school Catholic, and I'm pretty sure you appreciate it because there's a few Scots that are old school
yeah,
Catholic
yeah.
that they believe
Not
left-handed people,
around.
yeah, that they believe left-handed people were evil.
Yeah, yeah.
And she genuinely believed that, so she made me use my right, which obviously gave me dyspraxia. It made me angry that obviously I've been made to do something, and then they bunged me into in and out for mental health issues for 2 years. I went to this place
Really.
called Fort yeah. I went to this place called Fort Coombe once a
Mm-hmm.
week. Then it was twice a week when I had the group therapy sessions for 2 years. They used to put me in a room with a chick with glasses and a clipboard and a little box full of like these old toys that like just about every kid in the place had used. And I just used to get a blue ball and just like, bounce it off the floor and play slap ball by myself. And she like, was there anything you'd like to talk about? No, not really. Like bum bum, catch the ball, bum bum, catch the ball. And it wasn't until they thought I was nuts, but it
Yeah,
wasn't.
don't worry,
It
I've
was,
had that.
but it wasn't until they investigated what was going on in the school and they realized what was going. Oh, you know what I mean? They still sent me there for another year because it's gone from, well, then it goes from one that, oh, bless him, he's crazy to, oh, bless him, he's a victim. And I was just like, I was just the same. Like, I was just like, still bouncing my blue ball off the wall. Like, yeah, can we just move on,
Yeah,
please? You know what I mean? So I've had that pressure. And the thing is, like you just now said, and you are bang on. When it comes to mental health, you need the right people around you. And never isolate yourself, by the way, folks. If you're suffering from mental health, please never ever isolate yourself, because we're all people, we all have problems. There's no one person out there that's perfect. If you're like, say, like what me and Jordan have been discussing a minute ago, if you're from a rough area like he's been, for sounds from it, like he said he came up from a council estate, I came up in a tower block. The first few years of my life, like when I was 3 years old, I watched a lady commit suicide going flying past my window. I didn't even realize what it was. And even when I looked outside and I looked down and see this, it's a good thing I was 2, 3 years old and I didn't understand what I was looking at when I looked down. I just saw this
yeah,
red mess. Like if I would have known now what I've known then, I wouldn't have slept for God knows how long. But I understand what it's like you say when you come from a really like rough area and how sometimes you get even if you don't mean to, there's people around you that aren't necessarily good for you. Let me put it that way. because that just happens to be the environment you're in.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things people don't realise is that it's often the words of the people that care about you that hold you back. But I was always sort of told that work your 9 to 5 was the most important thing, and you had to sort of stick with that. But over the course of like the last 3 years, that was the worst advice I'd ever received. Like, yeah, don't let other people make decisions that keep you in places that you're unhappy. Because there will be a lot of people that will give you advice because they don't have the guts to do what you're planning on doing. You know what I mean? If you're trying to chase dreams and stuff like that, even parents maybe will tell you, don't be stupid. Just go to your work. You know, pay your taxes, save your bills, save up for a house, do this, do that. And a lot of the times it's just because they had to do that because they weren't brave enough to take that decision. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think some advice is always that don't let other people keep you in places that you're not happy.
Of course, listen to your heart. It's what drives us all, man. Like we all say, yeah, you have your head and your heart, but we all know that the heart is the one that hurts. The one is, oh, you could do better, you can do this. Sometimes you doubt yourself, and that's normal. But that's when you measure it, you balance it out with that. That's where that comes into it. But yeah, I fully hear. Now, can I ask you? And this is another thing. Like now that you're older and you're in a better place,
Yep.
and you say like, do you still feel that you suffer with it as much, or do you feel that now because you're in a lot better circumstances, you said you had your girlfriend, things have changed rapidly for you, are you now in a position where maybe forgive this phrase, if you can look in the mirror and see your own self-worth, is it easier to cope with, or now that's like come to fruition more, if you know what I mean? You have your girlfriend, you've had your holiday,
Yeah.
you've had your day in Vegas. How is
It's
your
hard. So I think everybody knows that like there's only so much that can change. My brain's always going to be wired the way it's wired. There's a lot of things that I'll experience that maybe a lot of other people won't because of the whole ADHD side of things. For instance, like impulsivity. Sometimes I'll do things that people just don't have a rational. There's no good reason for I've done that. Things like it's called what's the word? It's like rejection sensitivity dysmorphia or something, where I take negative comments really harshly that can put me in a hole for like days and stuff like that. So there's every day is still a battle to try and sort of keep yourself in the
Yeah, you
right
take it to
track.
heart. It's good. It's because
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there, it's in there. You're still trying to heal, so you take it to heart. So when someone, because I imagine the thing is, like, okay, this is just an observation, but you seem as quite like a hand on heart guy in terms of the
yeah,
sense of you're very much a person of your feelings. I'm very much the same. So when someone criticizes us or has a go at us, and we see that as okay, no other way of bullshit, because I don't know about you, but sometimes when I think I get harsh criticism, I'll go away, I'll think about what they've said, but then I'll also be like, hang on a minute, what base have they got to say it? And that's normally when I'll come back a couple of days later. So why did you say that? Because it's a challenge to them. It's a challenge to yourself. Big up, Leroy. Big up, brother. How you doing, sir? Hope you're doing all right, my friend.
kangaroo humper.
Hope you're doing good. Yeah, but do you find that you have your own coping mechanisms, or is there any particular way that you find you can bring yourself back and ground yourself again, or?
Yeah, I tend to be one of two ways. I'm either the world's biggest oversharer, which tends to make people like me a lot very quickly,
I think you're
but
awesome.
then make me feel uncomfortable later on when I realise how much I've overshared by a lot. Like in jobs and stuff I've had in the past, like I'll be sitting talking to someone I've known 5 minutes, and at that point, like I'd be telling them what kind of drugs I was doing, like what I'd done the night before, and
Like you've done today.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's just in my nature to not have a guard up, and then once I realise I've overshared, all I want to do is not speak to anyone ever.
That's just
So
a
it's just
sensitivity because you wonder if people judge you. That's why. Yeah, I understand. You won't find that hit, bro. I
it's
think you're fucking awesome for saying what you said, man. You're the man. Come on.
it's a fine balancing act you have to get right with yourself. And every day I'm still sort of learning how to deal with myself and how to
Take it from your
I
elders.
guess be more
Like,
normal,
yeah,
refine
no,
myself into.
don't be normal. Have you seen what constitutes as normal nowadays? Don't be normal, George. You
I
be
suppose,
exactly
yeah,
how you are. If you're prospering in life and you're doing well, and the main thing is you're happy, because one thing about mental health is you need. This is the key of it, really. When you look in the mirror, you have to see someone you like. That's what for me, because that's one thing I have to say. I haven't had the best jobs in the world. I may have not had the best holidays in the world. But I tell you what, mate. I've lived. I've done some shit that people haven't done. I guarantee that for a fact. And I can tell you what, man. When I look in, I've got a clean conscience. Because I'm a man of conscience as well, by the way. I could have done bare bookie shit over my lifetime, and that's one thing that I'm glad I haven't. Because, like you said, when you come from rough areas, there's opportunities to do things that maybe, should we say, that you shouldn't do, and maybe not legal. but
yeah,
I've said no to things like that, and I've turned my back, and I've always kept my mind on me, and I've never really been one that's had to blend in with the crowd, because that's one thing about when you become a bit of a rebel, like, and I imagine you are, that sometimes when you're by yourself, it's good to be by yourself in terms of you can go away, you can reanalyze things if you wish, or you can just get your stuff together really and just collect yourself again, and then, like as you say, hammer on the next day. Because trust me, you said a minute ago about in life you're still alert, bro. That's one thing I will say as a person who's like 28 years old. You still got most of your life. You're still a young'un. You're young'un. You're making me feel old sitting next to
yeah.
you. I feel
It's been
37
a
for
long 28 though.
I hear that, bro, and I'm 10 years ahead of you, so you can imagine. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It don't get any easier, but I tell you what, the rewards go up as long as you've been doing the right by yourself. The rewards keep on going up. That's one thing I
yeah,
will say, because that's one thing everyone always says. It doesn't get any easier. Yeah, but as long as you're using your brain, it gets better as well. It's not just you continuously slug it out. Because like you said, as long as you're being like true to yourself and you're using half a brain, you know what I mean? And you're actually using half your heart as well. Because like you said, some people are not brave enough to do what they feel they need to do. You know what I
yeah.
mean? You're going to end up getting your own rewards anyway. So, in my case, even though I was injured today, like I've been injured for the last, because I've done such a good job before, they offered me a new job today, which I was actually quite stoked at, which I
Mm.
accepted. So,
Nice, man.
yeah, thanks, man.
Congratulations.
It's not that big a deal, really, because it's all in security anyway, but I need to get out of that shit.
Work's working it.
Yeah, it works. Hey, dude, they'll give me more money, all that gab. I'm not really that asked about it, to be honest, because I'm not being funny. I've had a bit of an issue with it when I've had injuries, but I'm not going to go too deep into that because I'm not the subject matter here. You are. But now that you, what are your aims now? Now that you, in terms of in your mental health, I'll ask your future project aims in your work in a moment. But
Yeah.
in terms of do you have any plan to yourself where you want to see yourself in 5 years' time? Are you looking to be like a daddy at 32, or are you looking to what is Jordan's personal aims in terms of like yourself?
At the minute, we're just sort of in the building stage, me and my girlfriend. Child, a child isn't off the question, but it's something we've spoke about. At the minute, I'm just trying to sort of build streams of income. That's where I'm at the moment. I've decided that I'm never going to work for someone else again in terms of what going into an office or sort of having to phone payroll and ask where my pay slip is and stuff like that. But to begin with, it's a grind. You know, there's only so many jobs in the MMA industry, especially when it comes to writing and stuff like that. I've been speaking to a company recently who are interested in maybe getting me involved in the bare knuckle side of things.
Yeah, bare knuckles, yeah.
So, yeah, at the minute, it's just grinding it out. Mental health wise, I think it's all about just sort of being honest with yourself and letting yourself know where you're at. If you're in an uncomfortable situation in life, if you're not happy with where you're going. But for a long time, I had problems with not really having a plan. And I think that can leave you in a sort of weird spot.
No way out.
Yeah, if you don't really know what you want to do, then it's hard to figure out how to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you just sort of end up in a spot where you're stuck. So yeah, always sort of keeping one finger on the pulse of where it is you're trying to get to.
Yeah, never lose sight of the goal. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, don't
100%.
leave yourself sort of hopeless at any point, because then it's very much easier to live in the moment. And when you're living in the moment, days go by and weeks go by, and yeah,
Years. Yep. And you're still in the same shit if you're not like in the right mindset. Yeah,
yep.
100% spot on. Now, is there where do you see yourself as the professional in 5 years then? I know you said you were doing your stuff in terms of maybe you're doing a bit more bare knuckle. Would you ever do any more boxing, or like would you do combat sports in general, or would you just try and stick to MMA if you could?
Do you know what? I'd like to lie to you and say that I've got a definite plan, but since I started this, I became a writer. I've never written before becoming an MMA writer. It wasn't something I was particularly interested in. Never went to college for it, nothing like that. And I just messaged a guy called Lewis Simpson one day who just so happened to be opening a website called Combat Sports UK. And he says, yeah, sure, you can come on, sort of learn what to do. And it was only about 6 months until I got a paid job from that. And then I ended up on the Fight Week show with Ola and stuff like that. That was just out the blue randomly. I'd never even spoken to him before. I just put up on Twitter, does anybody know a sort of any good podcast maybe I'd be interested in going on? And that's how we linked up, and that was about 2 years ago now. So I just sort of let the wind blow me wherever it wants to take me at this point. I've had jobs before, but it sounded like, I was getting like $20 an article, and I was allowed to do as many as I wanted. And basically, it seemed like a dream position to be in. And then it changes, and it's again week and you're out and someone else is in. So I've just sort of learned that career-wise, I'm going to try and sort of build one thing on my YouTube in the background, and hopefully be able to just go from place to place and find enough places to keep me in this industry at the moment.
When you started writing those articles, how many did you write, may I ask?
Altogether?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thousands.
That's what I was. Was it one of those ones? Once you did get the opportunity to start doing, was it one of those ones where maybe your creative side and everything just unleashed, and it was just like,
yeah, like I think I'd never written before, so I got no instruction and gave the guy one article. He told me everything that was wrong with it, and I'd done another one, and it was only about a week until I was self-publishing. It's just something I've got an aptitude for, fortunately, and that I was willing to give a try. I don't know, it's at a time where you used to be a fat guy, you get good with words and you get good with your mind, because you're not going to beat anybody in a race, you know what I mean? So you have to be quick and clever, and a lot of people might mention things like that. And I think it's sort of like brain training for getting creative with things.
So once you did have once that bottle top was off, literally it was just oozing out of you. And I take it once you found the way or learned or through trial and error how to construct your articles, I can imagine you just sitting there just like doing article after article. And I bet most of them were good as well. I bet most of them were pretty good.
One job, it was MMAnews.com, and they wanted me. They were the ones that were willing to pay me like ridiculous amounts for things, and but the deal was that I had to work between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. because that was American hours.
Yeah.
So like slowly but surely I started realising why there's not a lot of people working full time in the British MMA industry as writers and stuff like that, because it's a grind. Everybody wants you either. Like one company was Sportskida, they're an Indian company, and another company was based in Vegas, and the next one New York. So you're working through like 12 different time zones, and yeah, it's a really weird sort of world to try and get into.
Yeah, I imagine that must be a bit much as well when you're living like the kind of like normal writers or life, and someone says, "Oh yeah, but you have to completely reverse it." Hang on, here you go. Yeah, I fully agree with you there, George. Here you go, George. I fully agree with you there, Leroy. Fully. Bloody good writer and a bloody good bloke. I hate him. Yeah.
That's how Leroy rolls. He can't really give full compliments.
Yeah, no, he knows I'm the 1-inch destroyer anyway. If you happen to watch their watch along anyway, he knows to stay away, otherwise he'll get hurt. Anyway,
I think Leroy's secretly like a fucking giant bodybuilder or something. There's something going on there.
I tell you what, I saw him for the first time on their watch along the other day, and I was just like, damn! After all this time, I finally got to see what he looks like. Like, you know what I mean? And the guy,
You
he
know, I
was
really like. I thought Leroy was on the show the first time I went on because it was mainly him I was talking with, and then he just never fucking showed up for about 4 months, and then he popped up. And I didn't realise, like, for the first while that Leroy had been watching in the background, sort of clicking
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's always creeping somewhere, isn't he, Leroy?
yeah,
No, I'm joking. But yeah, but you know what? Yeah, I have to say much love to Leroy because when I first started going on the Fight Week show, I was just nattering with the boys in the chat, and then one day he just goes, "Oh, who wants to moderate?" And I was like, proper like schoolgirl bit, me, like all that shit. And I've just been addicted to listening to the lads ever since because they're a nice bunch. I do a lot of stuff with Naz as well myself, football side of things, and
yeah,
I think Leroy, he's a top guy and he's always nice. And he always points if he thinks there's something relevant, he always makes sure it pops up on the screen or Ola gets its attention or whoever. And he's such a nice guy, and he's always been very nice to me. Messaged me earlier as well.
yeah,
He's like, and I was saying the same thing to him because one thing about it, I want to get all you guys' stories in terms of yours, Jordan's. I'll even bring Naz on as well, Ola as well, maybe on a one-to-one basis because I think it's important that a lot of people understand that we do this not because we feel like we're going to get paid out of it or whatever. It's just that we actually enjoy doing it. We've got a love
yeah,
for it. In terms of with you guys more deal with the actual fighting and like, fighter side of things, the more like media side. With me, I'm trying to deal with the more human element. Hence the reason why I've been sitting there nattering you and asking you about that. How did you do this? How did you do that? You know, who was your
yeah,
inspirations? Blah 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 blah. Because that's why a lot of people forget all this. Like we are all people,
yeah.
and it's
It's
vastly important that it's not forgotten. Sorry, mate.
yeah. I was just gonna say 'cause it's sort of weird that I don't know how many hours I've spent around maybe Ola and Will and Leroy and Naz, and we know each other, but there's so much we don't know about each
Oh,
other.
Trevor.
It's this, and we all talk every single day. I don't really know that much about Ola's background and Leroy's background and Will's background, and yeah, I think it's a good idea to sort of maybe get a bit more in depth profile in these people. I don't know what Ola's up to. He could be some kind of fucking criminal mastermind.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
But
for a long time, I thought he was a bus driver. So, like, because he keeps like, get on the Ola bus. I'm like, all right. But you don't want to ask, do you? Like, do you actually drive a bus? Are you driving a bus load of cocaine? Like, what are you
yeah,
driving?
Ola's always up to something.
Top
Don't know,
grinder,
is
man.
it?
He's always working. Always working
Mhm.
him. Always.
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before Ola's channel sort of goes up to the next level. I think the work that he's been putting in with a lot of the African guys is going to pay dividends.
Oh, big up Mama Flossie. Back again. Fight Week Showcase. So if you were
I
watching
don't
earlier.
encourage Leroy.
Yeah.
Only makes him come out more often.
Yeah. We like to keep him in the closet until we need him.
Leroy's been in the closet for a long time. He's just it.
Top dude, though. Top dude. Like, look, it's been nearly an hour and a half. What have you got coming out of your channel soon, bro? Like, talk to me. What content have you got coming up?
Yeah, I think the plan at the minute is to keep cracking on with interviews and maybe do a few more. I'm going to try and put together sort of funny type roundup videos, but better edited than my usual ones. Just sort of highlight maybe some of the funnier stories in MMA this and over the weeks and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm going to be trying to sort of pump out content and stuff like that.
And you're gonna broaden your content, as you said, like you're gonna have more comedy sort of stuff in it. Look on the more light side of MMA, which is not actually something
Yeah,
a lot of people do, strangely enough.
no, it's surprising. I've got a lot of sort of ideas and stuff. I'm planning on doing a few sort of reaction videos with my girlfriend to a lot of things about MMA. She's now a big MMA fan as well. So
I'll big up the missus.
yeah, get everybody involved.
Yeah, why not? If you can.
Yeah, I think at this point I'm sort of I've got a fair bit of free time that I can use in what I want. So I'm gonna sort of have a crack at the MMA YouTube scene and see how the.
Well, I tell you what, even if you just keep it as a side thing, man, and just let it grow. Like
That's it.
what? Hand pink waving. Okay.
I don't know if that means Leroy's away for a wank or something.
I don't. Yeah, I can understand the hand waving part. It's just the pink. That's what.
Yeah,
Like maybe he's like not like shined it up too well, or it's just like no
Jinky's
signal.
lost. Is that fucking what 3 words or whatever that thing is?
It
You
might
might
be.
go and find them for there.
Well, it's not going to be like a Wells Wild though. I know that much.
Sometimes I get confused by Leroy. In the group chat, he'll just say he's in a random country. I don't know what the fuck he's up to. I've never really asked him. Sometimes he's in like Canada and Rwanda. Yeah, he was in Rwanda at one point, I'm sure.
Well, he's Australian though, isn't he?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know those Aussie. Oh, here you go. Look, it's an emoji, YT. StreamYard doesn't have it. All right. Okay.
Sense.
Okay, you can go back in the closet now, Leroy. Thank you.
I think he was in like, Rwanda one day, and then I'm sure like 3 days later he was in Canada. So
really?
Like, yeah, I don't want to bring too much suspicion on it, but I'm not sure if like him and Ola are fronting a giant, massive drug smuggling operation. Like, I don't know for sure. I have my suspicions.
They're getting all that good stuff. They're getting all that good stuff in it from. They're getting it all from Naz, in it from Morocco, and they're shifting it along.
Oh, Naz is definitely up to something. I don't even ask that motherfucker, man.
Oh no, that's my boy. I love Nazi. But the
Yeah,
thing is, don't get me wrong, he's always smiling and he's always happy and he was always like got energy. But he's always like one of those guys. You always think you look like you're in trouble a lot of the time.
Naz is like a Labrador. You know what I mean? Like he's just got this ton of energy, and his tongue's always hanging out, and his tail's always wagging, and he's always happy enough.
Nah, I didn't say that, bro. That was him.
Oh, that's very much a compliment.
Was it? All right then.
Yeah, he's sort of high energy and happy, and he's reliably happy.
Reliably.
Sometimes he'll say some stuff or do some stuff, and you just sort of look at him with your head tilted to the side, like, what was that? What did you just say there, Naz? But it's always good vibes with that guy, man. So
I love that. That's my brother, man. I'll give my left arm for him if I could, man, because he's looked after me when it comes to the football side of things. He's tried to bring me involved in the Chelsea fan community side of things, and I do a lot of stuff with him now. And thanks to him, I actually done a watch along on the Fight Week show a couple of weeks back, and I really enjoyed that. That's where spoke with Jordan the first time. That guy cracked. Yeah. That bastard put me in the sin bin. He took me off stage. He put me in a sin bin and all sorts. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, "You bastard! Like, how could you do that? It's my first one as well. You made me feel bad. Like, it's a good thing I know you guys were joking. Otherwise, I might like throw my camera on the floor, go into a corner and cry or something. Like, oh no, you ruined my fight with
I don't know who put Jordan in charge at anything really. That guy's something else.
Well, no. I'm not really going to say anything bad about it because I want him to.
Oh, of course not. No, that's.
I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare because I'm hoping at some point I get brown envelopes from him.
Yeah.
keep
brown envelopes of him and brown packages for Leroy. You don't want to know what's inside.
So yeah. Containing what nobody knows. Containing what nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
But so have you got anything you got coming up soon?
Kangaroo semen.
Oh
I don't think I've got anything in particular.
Did you just say kangaroo semen?
Yeah. That's what Leroy's smuggling.
I'm shocked.
You don't want to know where he's smuggling it though.
Yeah, that's what I was just about. Please don't talk about where. Please don't. I'm never
you can find it on Leroy's OnlyFans.
Oh my god. I'm never gonna get monetized now. I'm not joking. Top guy. Well, put it this way, like if you do any watch alongs or if you have anything like that, I'd be happy to jump on with you, man. It's been this hour and a half. This hour and a half has fucking flown by, bro. Like literally, the only reason why I'm not gonna do it for longer. And if you want to do another one another day longer, it's because I'm gonna go eat because literally I had a bit of a long day. And I have to keep
no worries, man.
I have to keep my pain medication up, otherwise I end up in agony because I'm still recovering from my injury. But it's been an absolutely fucking blast having you here. Anyone who hasn't been in and out of the chat and hasn't subbed to this guy, please go and subscribe to Cage Scrab. Let's get this guy out, man. The guy's been class, man. I have to say thank you so much, bro.
No worries, mate. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy it.
And I hope you don't later on say, "Oh shit, did I say?" No, you didn't say too much, bro. You were bang on. No, I mean that because obviously these are things that, and anyone can think after. Oh shit, did I do anything wrong there? You know what I mean? Did I go to? Please don't. I hope that none of that happens because it's been
I'm good.
It's been a solid, mate, and I appreciate you so much. I look forward to seeing some of the bits that you're gonna send me, and I can't wait. Maybe if you can, you hang around for 5 minutes after we finish the stream, and I want to quickly ask you something off camera.
Yeah,
Because
no worries, man.
but I'm gonna wrap this up here, everyone. Please, as I said, give this guy a like and a share and a sub. He's brilliant. It's been a top-notch stream. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for the flowing conversation. And we're out of here, people. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe.